Good morning, everybody, or good day to Monday Daily Devotions. I'm filming this right after church, so welcome to our time together today. So our devotions this week are going to start exploring a little deeper our gospel text on Sunday, and we are in John, the first chapter, starting at verse 19. And I want to talk specifically about hope today. So I'm going to read it and then we'll talk more. John chapter 1, verse 19. This is the testimony given by John when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, "Who are you?" He confessed and didn't deny it, but confessed, "I'm not the Messiah." And they asked him, "What then? Are you Elijah?" He said, "I am not." "Are you the prophet?" He answered, "No." Then they said to him, "Who are you? Let's have an answer for those who sent us. What do you say about yourself?" He said, "I am the voice of one crying out in the wilderness, 'Make straight the way of the Lord,' as the prophet Isaiah said." Now they had been sent from the Pharisees. They asked him, "Why then are you baptizing if you are neither the Messiah, nor Elijah, nor the prophet?" John answered them, "I baptize with water. Among you stands one whom you do not know, the one who's coming after me. I'm not worthy to untie the thong of his sandal." This took place in Bethany across the Jordan where John was baptizing. I'm going to shut my phone off since it keeps apologize for that. So we're talking about hope this week, and as I mentioned in the sermon on Sunday, the Hebrew word for hope is Qavah. In English, it's Qavah is how it would look and sound. Qavah, and it's intimately connected to waiting in expectation. So I have to admit that helped me think about hope in a new way and allowed me to look at my own life and times when I've been hoping to put some words into that feeling, because hope's really a feeling, right? And it helped me kind of think about all the different things I've waited for and my expectations that were there, and that's hope, and how powerful it can be to live in hope, and equally how painful it can be when you don't have hope, how weak it can make you feel. And so you look at this story and you look inside the text and you can start to see the hope that the people around John were feeling and experiencing and living in as an occupied people, a people who were in pain and struggling and working hard to find God's presence in their life and finding God in the temple and in their worship and the kind of things we'd think about, but also in the back of their mind, always wondering if God's going to show up in a bigger way, in the big way that God promised with Messiah, with liberation, with freedom. And so they're waiting for that. They're hoping for that. They're expecting it to come. And those expectations are what we see in the story when they see this John the Baptist guy out in the wilderness doing these things. His life and his work is starting to fit into their expectations. And so they're starting to live into that, and they go out there and they say, "Who are you?" to try to see. And of course, he moves them away from himself and points them to Jesus, who then doesn't fit into their expectations. But that's what you see in John's gospel and the other gospels as well, is people trying to make sense out of who Jesus is and what Jesus is doing and how he fits into what they're anticipating and what they're expecting and what they're wanting. And I think that for us today, that's where I'm going to just invite you to spend a little bit of time thinking about what you hope in, but thinking specifically about what you're expecting Jesus to do and anticipating Jesus to do, what you're waiting for. Because you have to hear in this text, I think, John say, "I baptize with water. Among you stands one whom you do not know." And just to think about what that must have been like when John said that, because they were listening to John and believing him. And so when he said, "Among you stands one whom you do not know," they started to go, "Oh, is it you? Is it him? Is it him? Is it him? Who is it? How do we know him?" And see, that's the question. Among you stands one whom you do not know. Well, how do you know him? For us, post resurrection, after the resurrection, we look back and say, how do we know who Jesus is and what God does for us? And we look at the cross and we look at the resurrection and we look at the promised gift of new life. And then we bring that into our present world and go, okay, the risen Christ promises to be with us in so many ways so that we can look for him and see him when he shows up and take part in his work, but also so that we can look out in the head and allow that resurrection event, knowing that new life comes out of death through Jesus Christ, allowing that resurrection event to push us forward into the future so that we can look at everything out there with new eyes, with a new heart, expecting God to show up and having our hope then proven correct or worthy. So think about that today. What you're expecting Jesus to do for you and give you, and how he promises to show up in the darkest places of life to bring new life. And that part of that is waiting, anticipating, and expecting in order for God to work in God's time. I hope that you have a blessed day today. And I hope today that you can find hope in Christ. Have a blessed day.